Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a new episode of Talking Cinema. I haven't done one of these in a while because, to be honest, there hasn't been a whole lot that I wanted to talk about. Due to the pandemic, there hasn't been a lot of new, big tentpole films that have gotten trailers that are worth discussing. A lot of the trailers that have been released are trailers for the same movies that I already saw trailers for. And that is the case with some of the trailers that I'm going to be talking about. But there are some actual new stuff, like the Batman, some extra footage of the Suicide Squad, the trailer for the Justice League Snyder cut, and there's a few other trailers for some more lesser known films that are either going to come out or in some cases have already come out on home video. I would act who that I honestly wouldn't mind talking about for a bit either. And there's a little bit of some movie news, like the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles remake, and The Exorcist all over again, and stuff like that. But I'm going to start off talking about a topic that is a very hot topic right now, and I mean hot in a way that it's something that is just too hot to handle in the worst kind of way, and that is Netflix's advertising debacle for Cuties. I mean, I think this is going to go down in advertising history as an example of what not to do when it comes to advertising. Because from what I've read, the film itself is not as much of pedal bait as the now deleted poster showcased the film as, or the trailer showed the film as. Someone at Netflix dropped the ball hard with advertising for Cuties. And the thing with this movie is, it's one of those films to me that would have been difficult to market to begin with, because it does, even if it had better marketing, that whole aspect of the film about 11-year-old girls being over sexualized and dressing like sluts and twerking is actually a core aspect of the film's plot. So it's something that's completely unavoidable no matter how the marketing is approached. That being said, the way that they went about it was the worst possible way, because it really did come across as if they were promoting it to pedophiles. And they were trying to promote a story of 11-year-old girls dressing like sluts as some kind of empowering tale. And that's just, no, you don't go there. And it just, and I know the director has come out and has said that this is not what my film is about. This is not what the intent is, so on and so forth. There's some other people who have come out and defended the film. To me personally, it's a film I'll probably never see because it just doesn't really interest me. But when it comes to the backlash that it's gotten, it's understandable and it's completely justified, because it is an absolutely horrible example of rushed and not very well thought out marketing on Netflix's part. And the way that they responded to it wasn't very, to the backlash wasn't very good either. I mean, I got the screenshot of people asking Netflix if they support pedophilia, and then they just kind of danced around the question. And then they changed the synopsis recently and changed things around. And they're getting some backlash for that because they mentioned the word conservative in the synopsis. But if you actually look up on what actually occurs in the film's plot, saying that it is a conservative family actually is not out of left field. And just because they're saying that it's a conservative family doesn't mean that it's attacking all conservatives. There's a lot of people reading stuff in between the lines with the synopsis for this film that Netflix just released or just to put out a day or so ago that to me are seeing things that aren't there. Netflix is not outright attacking conservatives by saying that it's a conservative family that's featured in the film, because it really is a conservative family that is featured in the movie. Maybe maybe they could have chose something different. Maybe they could have chose a different wording to use, because especially so soon after backlash that they justifiably received for their horrible marketing for the film. But to me, I don't think that's that big of a deal that they put in a conservative family. I think it's it was a far bigger deal how they were marketing it previously. And you know what? They could have just said fuck it and just kept everything the same. But they actually took the effort to try to change things and to do things differently. Now, you could argue that they could have just removed the film entirely. And I probably wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that either. But they decided to stick to their guns in a different way and keep the film on the platform, but to change things around. And make it a more acceptable form of advertising for the movie. But yeah, to me personally, I'm not going to boycott Netflix because of this. They make a lot of really fun and a lot of genuinely great stuff. And I don't think one fuck up, even as big of a fuck up as this is going to make me want to completely give up on Netflix. If you decide to do so, be my guest. But I don't support punishing Netflix as a whole for an error in marketing, for a particular film, because it's not like all of the other movies and all the other projects and all the other stuff that a Netflix has been a part of. It's not like they support pedophilia or anything like that, or they've had marketing that's been nearly as controversial or nearly as messed up. I hope at the very least that this leads to Netflix learning something, whether it's the advertising company, the advertising crew that works on the advertising for Netflix films. I and I hope it also creates more of a hands-on thing with the director of these foreign films that they are licensing and releasing on their platform, so they can actually have a heart-to-heart about how they're going to advertise their movies instead of just outsourcing things or keeping things in-house, uh, and making things far too insulated when it comes to how they choose to advertise these things. Uh, but yeah, it's Exhibit A. It's going to be Exhibit A, or at least one of the exhibits in every advertising school and every advertising company till the end of time on what not to do. This will be a term now in advertising. Like, no, we don't want to pull a a Cuties. We don't want to pull a Cuties. Let's double check. Let's make sure things don't look like this ever again. But at the same time, you're like, how did it even get this far? And that's the thing too. It's like, how did it even get this far? Like, how did that poster even get onto the platform? How did that trailer, the way that it was edited, even get, put on Netflix or on YouTube? How did this even happen? And that's what Netflix needs to figure out, is like, how did this happen? Is it because we're too insulated and we're just allowing people to do whatever they want with their advertising and with our advertising, and we just trust them too much? Or did they know what they were doing and they got caught, and now they're like, oh, I guess, bad publicity is not always good publicity. Uh, yeah, I don't really know what the true answer is, but regardless, it's just gonna go down in history as one of the biggest advertising fuck ups of all time, and rightfully so. Anyway, speaking of Netflix, there's another film that they did that I think came out already. It's called Project Power with Jamie Foxx, and I saw the trailer for it, and it looks like a fun movie. I like the concept behind it. I like Jamie Foxx. I'll probably give that a watch sometime. I thought that looked pretty enjoyable. Um, Definitely looked a lot better than Rogue with Megan Fox. That movie, that trailer, it looks like somebody left a comment that would just I thought was brilliant. They're like this looks like one of those fake trailers at the beginning of Tropic Thunder, and I'm like, that's exactly what it looks like. I mean, Megan Fox as a mercenary, uh, hunting CGI lions from the director of Silent Hill Revelations. I love how the trailer like has from the director of Silent Hill Revelations, like it's a good thing. Like that's a selling point for your movie. That movie looks like straight up ass. It's got a color scheme with the orange and blue and teal that looks like it's directed by Michael Bay. Um, and on top of that, there's just awful CGI. I mean, there are some shots of the lions that are actual lions, and they are. It seems like they are shooting on location somewhere in a desert or in Africa, but then they have this just crappy CGI that just takes you out of it. Yeah, I'm definitely more than likely gonna skip that one, and that's too bad because I don't mind the concept of a film with mercenaries who, uh, during a mission gone awry, they end up having to fight the enemy as well as packs of lions. I don't mind that concept. I just don't think that the film is really going to live up to the concept's full potential, especially not with Megan Fox as a lead. That's about as believable as Tara Reid as a scientist in Alone in the Dark. Anyway, yeah, so I definitely wanted to mention a little bit about that. Bill and Ted Face the Music. Okay, I saw the second trailer. It still looks cheap, especially when it comes to the visual effects. How does a film in 2020 have worse looking visual effects than a film from 1989 or 1991? Like how and why? Like the visual effects look really fucking terrible. The more I keep watching the trailer, the more I see how terrible these visual effects are. And this is supposed to come out in theaters? And I'm a huge Bill and Ted fan, and I'm going to see it regardless, but I'm with a lot of other fans who are leery about this, especially with interviews with the writer who's talking about how he wants to do something different and how there's been too many buddy films. And it's like, oh no, so he's going to do something different. And by doing something different, it's not even going to be really a film about Bill and Ted mainly and going on another adventure. It's also going to be about their daughters. And then the writer didn't do himself any favors when he tried to make the argument that in Bogus Journey that they never explicitly pointed out the genders of Bill and Ted's kids. No, they did. Or maybe it was the director. I'm trying to remember whether it was the director or the writer, but I might have been. It's either one, but it's definitely somebody who was involved with the first two films. And did you watch the second film recently? Because unless unless Bill and Ted has really become a name that's common for girls, they explicitly say Bill Jr. and Ted Jr. They don't say Teddy Jr. They don't say Billy Jr. So to me personally, I think it's pretty obvious and pretty clear that their kids at the end of the Bogus Journey were boys. That being said, having two girls I'm okay with that as long as they handle it properly. But if they do this bullshit that I'm afraid of and that other fans are afraid of, where they make it where Bill and Ted are never really were the ones that wrote the song to save the world, it was their daughters, then I'm gonna be like, fuck this movie with a rusty chainsaw. I mean, no. Yeah, I am not gonna be in support of that at all, because that completely destroys the integrity of the entire franchise. For what? Just for the sake of being different? And for identity politics or gender politics or any of that bullshit? I really sincerely hope they don't go that route. I'm okay with Bill and Ted working with their daughters together, and maybe the daughters help them get some inspiration to, finish the song or something. It's a collaborative effort. I'm fine if it's a collaborative effort, but if it's just they're the ones that do it, then I'm just gonna be like, fuck this. Like, what is this? What is this bullshit? And I'm not all for a Bill and Ted movie where it's not even a buddy movie. What's the point of doing another Bill and Ted if you're not going to do a buddy movie? That's what Bill and Ted is. That's what the franchise is. That's what it's called, Bill and Ted. But anyway, yeah, I'm definitely worried. I'm worried that it's going to be bogus, but I will give it a fair chance, and I will give it a fair shot regardless, because I am going to be revisiting the Bill and Ted franchise very soon. So you will absolutely be hearing my thoughts on Face the Music within probably, because it comes out on Friday. So within a week or so. You'll definitely hear my thoughts on it, as well as the first two. The New Mutants, I guess, is gonna get a theatrical release. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I mean, at this point, I think they should have just released it direct to video or on demand. There's a trailer for a Liam Neeson movie called Honest Thief. I don't think this is really. It's not the best title, Honest Thief. But honestly, I liked the trailer. It looked like a fun Liam Neeson movie where he's, well, yes, he's once again doing his Taken thing, but I like the idea of a robber who tries to turn himself in out of good faith, because he wants to settle down with this girl that he's fallen in love with. But then he gets double crossed by the FBI, and they decide to try to steal his money and frame him. So now he has to go on one last law, trying to think of the right word. He has to break the law once again in order to clear his name. I don't mind the concept, and I like Liam Neeson, and it looks like it might be a decent movie. It might be a fun time for an action film. Then I also saw a trailer for a movie called Critical Thinking. I'm not really a big fan of chess, but I wouldn't mind checking this out sometime because it's directed by John Leguizamo, and it actually looks like a fairly inspiring story based on a true story about these inner city kids who um, get some inspiration and find a lot in their life and some hope uh, with with chess. And I know it's something that's been done a bunch of times, insert a different sport here and there. But what I like about the trailer and what gives me hope for it, that it won't be just painfully generic, is the realism of it. It points out that the school industry, the school system, they don't give a shit about uh, things like the chess club. They care more about football and all these other things, regardless of what it might mean to the kids. So I like that. I like the fact that the trailer actually pointed that out, and I'm curious to see how John's gonna pull off directing and acting in it. And it looks like he's gonna deliver a good performance. So I like John Leguizamo, and that's why I'll probably give it a watch sometime. Now I want to talk about a really out there film called I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's from I think the guy who I think what the writer he was from the writer of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and it's from the director of what is it, Anas? I can't say the name, but it's like it starts with an A, um, Anasmolia or whatever. And this looks like a really trippy movie. And honestly, I'm curious about it. It deals with this new couple who are having some issues already. The girlfriend is thinking about ending things, uh, even before they go to meet the potential in-laws. And right from the get-go, some things are off. The dog is like shaking, doing the thing where it's shaking the water off like repeatedly over and over again. There's all these weird off kilter sort of stuff that's occurring. Um, Reality is starting to shift in different ways. Visually, it looks very impressive, and it definitely looks unique. And that's a really big selling point to me. And it has this Twilight Zone vibe to it, and I'm curious about it. It actually looks like it has potential for some genuinely good dark humor, but at the same time, some also really impressive and inventive visuals, and ultimately a story that has some genuine potential. Um, I also saw the trailer for The Devil All the Time. Great cast. The trailer was edited in such an expert, really impressive, excellent fashion that it intrigued me just by that alone. I don't know if it's actually going to be that well edited, but if the film itself actually manages to have that uh, that sheer amount of top notch editing, then it actually has potential. But I'm still curious to see how Tom Holland's going to pull off a more serious role, and as well as a lot of the other cast members. So it looks like it might be an alright film. The War with Grandpa, what are you doing, Robert De Niro? Seems like it's Dirty Grandpa, but like PG-13, and there's some punk kid who doesn't like the fact that his grandfather has taken his room because Grandpa is staying with the family now, and that's supposed to be a plot that I'm like, oh, you know, poor kid. I'm like, screw that punk kid. Like, show some respect to your fucking elders. Like, it's your grandfather. Like, can you just like you just deal with it? And in his new home, his new room in the attic, he has more space than he did in his bedroom, and it's honestly still pretty cool. You still have a roof over your head. I'm sorry. It's like first world problems. The movie. But anyway, then there's this whole like back. There's gonna be this back and forth between the grandpa, De Niro and his friends, versus the kid, and I'm just like, I know how this is all gonna end. They're gonna kiss. They're gonna make up. They're gonna mend the bond of the relationship, and it's gonna be strong. And the kid's gonna learn to love his grandfather, and they're gonna make things work despite the initial differences and whatever. But I'm not I don't really care about that. It looks really bad to me personally. It doesn't even look funny either. You have a film that I think Hulu is going to be coming out with called Bad Hair. This is a really trippy concept, and I like it. I think it has potential. It deals with hair that has a mind of its own. So it's similar to the segment in Body Bags with Stacy Keach, where he got hair transplants and they're actual like live entities or whatever. But this time around, it's got social satire, and it's dealing with race and things like that because it features an all African American cast, and It definitely looks like it's going to take risks and it's going to be definitely an edgy film, but it also looks like it's going to not be afraid to poke fun at things and have fun with it. So yeah, I liked the trailer and I'm curious about the film. It really wasn't that bad to me. That's a movie that I'm going to keep an eye on. In terms of another trailer, Let Him Go. Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, reuniting as Ma and Pa Kent once again. There's even like lines of dialogue and even sequences where it feels like they're just playing the same characters, and I wonder if that's intentional or not, or that's just a coincidence. But that being said, it looks like it might be a decent throwback thriller because I don't mind the concept of it. It looks like it has a genuine sense of grit and groundedness to it. Um, and visually, I liked the way it looked, and it looked like it might have a really good performance by both Costner and Lane. So, and I like the idea of them trying to go in and take their grandkid back from this shady family. Uh, so we shall see. Um, but I thought it looked interesting. I'm still not into Tenant. I've seen multiple trailers for Tenant, and it just looks dull to me. It doesn't really look like anything that is going to be that impressive. I'll give it a shot one day down the road, but I'm not gonna. I'm definitely not gonna go to the theater to see it. And to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna go to the theater to see anything. I just I don't feel safe enough to go to the theater. I understand they're gonna do social distancing and they're gonna keep things clean and whatever, but the theater can only do so much. They can't control people what they're gonna do. And the whole thing about people like keeping their masks off only when they're eating, like, do you really think they're gonna follow those guidelines? They're just gonna take their masks off throughout for the entire film. So you're gonna be sitting in the theater for like 2.5, 3 hours, exposed to whatever the hell that somebody might have. I'm not all for that. And it circulates through the air. It'll be like the movie Outbreak. I don't want to have any part of that. I don't. If you do, if you want to take the risk, feel free to do so. Be my guest. A couple other things I want to mention is a trailer for a new TV show that HBO is doing called Raised by Wolves. It's going to be coming out, I think, in September. It's directed by Ridley Scott. Visually, it looks stunning. I mean, absolutely breathtaking visuals. And that's why I'm curious about it. But also, another reason why I'm curious about it is the concept. It seems like something very out there, and it could easily just crash and burn and just be ridiculous. But I'm curious to see how they might be able to pull this one off. I'll give the show a shot sometime because I just I it seems like some really ambitious sci-fi, and I haven't seen really ambitious sci-fi in a while. Since honestly Blade Runner 2049. And the last trailer I want to talk about that is not a DC Fandome exclusive is Robin's Wish. This is a new film that's going to be talking about Robin Williams, and I don't think it's going to be a retrospective on his career or his life. It's going to be more about his contributions to humanitarian causes and the very heartfelt and I'm getting sorry. I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it because he was such a inspiring and wonderful person, that made so many different people, laugh and smile and despite all of his own issues. And this film seems like it's going to be a love letter to Robin, but at the same time it's going to really show what happened and just show the really devastating effects of Lewy body dementia. And I think it'll be a rough watch, but I think it'll be a necessary and an absolute must see for fans of Robin Williams to really know him in a deeper and even more personal way from those who knew him, like his wife and some of his other, friends and close confidants. They showed a still in the trailer with him by I'm sorry. They showed a still in the trailer with him by Christopher Reeve's side. When after his accident in the wheelchair, and it just shows both Robin and Chris are just wonderful people, and just seeing those two on in the same scene, knowing that they're both no longer with us, it was just like this just wave of emotion for me. And Robin, he was very close friends with Chris. He was there after Chris's accident, and he was a big reason why Chris actually powered through and didn't want to kill himself after what happened, because Robin was there to cheer him up and to lift his spirits. That's the kind of person that Robin was. And I think this documentary is really going to bring that to the forefront. And I think that's a wonderful thing. The Robin is quoted in this trailer with a really amazing quote that I want to share, because I think it's very poignant, and I think Robin is just absolutely 100% correct when he comes to this point. The self goes away. Ego, bye-bye. The thing that matters are others. That's what life is about. I mean, wow. Robin's no longer with us, but he will always be alive in one way or another due to, his work, either for humanitarian causes or in cinema or in comedy, but also for things like that, for quotes like that. Like, that's a quote that to me can last forever, because it's something that can speak to all of us. So, yeah. um, Now let's get to the DC Fandome stuff. So I saw the second trailer for Wonder Woman 1984. It was nice to see Cheetah. I actually don't think the CGI is that bad. I don't mind the look of Cheetah. I'm still kind of on the fence about Kristen Wiig and how she's going to pull that off, but I'll give her a fair shot and a fair shake. I will say this. I don't think the second trailer was nearly as good as the first one. The first trailer from Wonder Woman 1984, I just watched that recently. I think that is an amazing trailer. It has this energy to it that is just infectious and just really a lot of fun. The techno track they used was absolutely superb. The editing was just energetic, just flowed so well, and I just love the overall 80s vibe and aesthetic of the trailer. It actually felt like a legitimate throwback to the 80s and not some half-assed kind of thing. And the way that everything was set up just really showed a lot of potential. Like, if the final film can have that amount of energy and be consistently that energetic, it could be something special. And this is coming from someone who was not a fan of Wonder Woman at all. I did not like the movie. So I wasn't really looking forward to the sequel, but the trailer really blew me away. Now, this trailer, it wasn't nearly as good. It looked similar to all the other DC films in terms of the way that the editing was structured. The humor in particular was really cringy, and yeah, it was one of those things where there wasn't nearly as much focus visually and editing wise with the second trailer as there was with the first one, which was disappointing and ultimately made me even more leery about it. I was still leery, and I'm still going to be leery about Wonder Woman 84 because I wasn't a fan of the first film. And I still don't think Gal Gadot is a good actress, let alone someone who has enough screen presence to carry a film. That being said, if the visual style and flair is enough to kind of make up for that, and they have her not say nearly as many lines and really make the film more style over substance, then I think that could really work, at least for a one-off. But it's just one of those things where I am definitely on the fence about Wonder Woman 1984. I've always been on the fence, and that recent second trailer, which was a step down from the first one, has put me more firmly on the fence about it, which is too bad. But you know what? I'm still going to check it out sometime because I'm curious. I'm curious to see if it can actually capture that vibe and that energy that the first trailer had. The Suicide Squad teaser, it's really not much of a teaser at all. It's just like comic book panels with some shots of the characters in their live action form. I got more out of the featurette than I did from the teaser trailer. It's really nice to see James Gunn back doing films and doing a big spectacle comic book movie like this, and to hear him say things like, you know, this is one of the some of the most fun he's ever had. Like, that's a really good sign. And when you hear all these other people say it's like a giant graphic novel on screen, and just seeing the little clips here and there, it does look like it has potential to me. Not only to be a million times better than Suicide Squad, but to be one of the best DC films in a long time. Because James Gunn, to me, is a guy who really knows how to do a comic book film the right way. He knows how when to not take things too seriously, but he also knows how to nail the moments that need to have more emotional weight to them. And he's also one hell of a good director when it comes to action sequences and also when it comes to just visuals. He's a very impressive director when it comes to his visual style, as evidenced by even a film like Super and definitely Guardians of the Galaxy. So I am fully on board and absolutely intrigued 100% about the Suicide Squad, mainly for James Gunn's involvement. Not because of the plot, whatever the plot's going to be, or the new heroes, or necessarily even the new cast. I'm more into the film because of James Gunn, and I'm a fan of him, and I hope this is his moment of redemption, because yes, you know, he did say that he did tweet those things however long ago, and that was uh, you know, they were some really edgy, inappropriate jokes, but as the years have gone by, he's done nothing but distance himself from that part of him, and he's been a stand-up guy, and it's nice to see that he wasn't fully canceled by the court of public opinion. It's nice to see that he is getting the opportunity to once again showcase how genuinely talented and amazing of a filmmaker he is. Now we get to the opposite side of the coin. A guy who can shoot and can really create some really impressive visuals, but that's really all he's good for right now, Zack Snyder. So, Zack Snyder's Justice League, a mini-series event, because I heard that it's going to be 4 hours. 4 fucking hours. It's going to be split up into 1 hour parts. So, it is. It's a mini-series event. I'm sorry. This teaser did nothing for me. Because here's the thing. It's still going to be overloaded with shitty CGI, and as evidenced by how Darkseid looks, you know, it looks like they're going to overload it with even more shitty CGI. Like, well, that's a selling point. Hey, if you thought that, hey, did you like or hate the overwhelming amount of shitty CGI in Justice League? Well, you ain't seen nothing yet, because here's a whole buttload more of shitty CGI. Visually, it still looks bland. It looks very just beige. beige is the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to the visual style for that teaser. You can use the Hallelujah song all you want to, but all it does is just make me think of Watchmen, which is a much more impressive Zack Snyder comic book film and is a much better movie. And you just make me want to watch that again. I've always liked Snyder's Watchmen. I think it's an underrated movie. I think it's a fantastic film in its own right. And I think it will absolutely kick the shit out of this 4 hour long cut of Justice League. Here's the thing with the new cut of Justice League. How the hell is it going to solve the problems that Justice League has? Oh, you're going to solve the problems by making it 4 hours long? And how are you going to make Steppenwolf a viable threat? How are you going to fix that? How are you going to change things around in the screenplay that were absolute garbage? How are you going to fix that with just a few extra cuts? And how the hell is this going to work for 4 hours? How is this a story that needs to be 4 hours long in the first place? It just seems like a cash grab. It really does. It seems like a cash grab. It seems like something that Warner Brothers only put money and time and effort into because of the pandemic. If the pandemic wasn't a thing, I honestly doubt they would have done the Snyder Cut. I don't think they would have done it. I think they would have just been like, we don't care. It's not going to happen. Now that we're in the middle of the pandemic and Warner Brothers has pretty much put on hold or postponed most of their upcoming films, like most studios have, they have some extra money to pal around with, and they need some content, and they needed something to advertise on Fandome. So they were like, all right, Zack Snyder, here's some money. Do your Justice League cut. How is this Justice League cut going to fix the characterization, especially of characters like the Flash and Aquaman? How is it going to fix those things? It's probably going to make Superman a brooding asshole like he was in all the other Zack Snyder movies. So it's going to take away the one thing that the Joss Whedon cut got right when it made Superman more like the Superman that he's supposed to be, because Superman is not Batman with a different color scheme. But you wouldn't get that from Zack Snyder's approach to the character. But anyway, yeah, I have no faith, no hope whatsoever in a 4 hour long cut of Justice League. Man, I mean, and I don't even really want to watch it. Someone would have to pay me to watch that 4 hour long cut of Justice League. There was a Black Adam teaser trailer. I'm not sold on the idea of a Black Adam solo movie. I don't really think that's going to work. And the teaser trailer was nothing. The Rock showed up, and then it was a bunch of like concept art that was turned into like 3D with Photoshop and like voiceover by The Rock. That was pointless. Why did they even do that? Then we have the Batman. And I've seen this trailer 3 times, and every time I watch it, I come across, I come away with it even less impressed than I was before. I don't get the overwhelming amount of praise for this trailer. I know I have friends of mine who are really big fans of it, and that's cool, to each their own. And I have no problem with anyone who loves this trailer. A lot of people do. But to me, this is way too reminiscent and way too similar to Nolan. Yes, when it comes to the cinematography, it is a little bit different, but it's not different enough to me where it really makes it look and feel like it's drastically a different take. To me, from the trailer alone, it seems like it's Nolan's sloppy seconds. It's Christopher Nolan Batman 2.0 with a few tweaks here and there, and a different cast, and a different suit, and a different Batmobile, and a different villain. And that's really all all the differences are. The little fight that Pattinson has, I didn't mind it, but people are going way too overboard with that. People are saying, like, it's epic. He just punched a fucking guy, like, 2 or 3 times. Like, compare that to the warehouse fight in Batman vs. Superman with Affleck's Batman. That's fucking epic. He just punched a guy. Like, He did a whatever martial arts move, fucked up his arm, and punched him a few times. It's nothing that particularly epic or like amazing. I like the visceralness of it, and I appreciate that. And Pattinson doesn't sound like he's got throat cancer when he's doing the Batman voice, but I still don't feel like he really has a presence in the suit. He feels the way that he comes across to me is very similar to the way that I felt Bale came across as just another guy in a Batman suit. I didn't really buy him in the role from the trailer alone, no matter how hard he tries to one up Kevin Conroy when he says, "I am vengeance." Also, why did he say it? You know, in Batman the Animated Series, in the episode where Kevin Conroy says, you know, "I am vengeance, I am the night," that's a moment of catharsis for Batman because he's dealing with a lot, and there's a lot of things that are going on in that particular episode where things just start really falling apart for him. So that's a moment of catharsis. From what you see in the trailer, it just seems like it's a throwaway line where he's just trying to be a badass, and it doesn't really have the same effect, at least for me personally. And I'm not a fan of the Riddler, and how they're handling him as a whole. I don't mind a darker, grittier take on the Riddler. I don't mind the Zodiac Killer kind of aspects that they're trying to do with this character. But looking like a dollar store dark man with duct tape all over his face and taking away his charisma and his personality. You take away the Riddler's charisma and personality and his wit, and you make the Riddler into just a thug with riddles. And to me, that's a pretty shitty villain. Uh, uh, and I understand that it might be doing the Long Halloween. I love that comic book series. But here's the problem with that comic book series. If you're going to adapt it into a film, you have way too many cooks in the kitchen and you have way too many villains. What works in a comic doesn't necessarily work in a feature film. The Long Halloween, to me, if you're going to do it, needs to be a miniseries. Then you can actually be able to have all these villains and give them the proper screen time and the proper, amount of development. If this, a lot of people have already expressed their complaints on Batman and Robin and some of these other Batman movies for having too many villains. Well, what is going on here? You have the Riddler, you have the Penguin, you have Catwoman. There's already too many fucking villains here, and I'm worried about how they're going to handle that. And when it comes to the style and the vibe, yes, it's dark and gritty. It's similar to Seven, but so was The Dark Knight, and so was Batman Begins. And I just, for me personally, I'm burned out and tired of grounded in reality Batman. We already did that with the Nolan movies. Why do we have to do that again? Why do we have to retread the same ground? Because that's really what this film looks like to me. It looks like Nolan Batman 2.0 with a few tweaks here and there, grounded in reality. And I'm like, I can't take this Batman seriously anymore after hearing, Bale's take on the character. And also, Batman as a character and as a comic book series is not a series that's always been grounded in fucking reality to begin with. And I would like to see a mix of the two. I'd like to see more of the comic book aspects of the Batman universe on the big screen again, like Burton did in his films, and Schumacher with at least Batman Forever. I'm tired of Gotham City just being fucking boring and just being rainy Chicago at night. This trailer, from what I saw, it looks like this takes place in Nolan's Gotham City. There's no style, there's no flair, there's no, cinematic, trying to think of the right word for it. There's no cinematic spectacle to Gotham City. And that's a big part of the Batman universe. And other than the fight scene None of the action sequences in the trailer impressed me. The Batmobile looks better than the Tumbler, but that's not saying much. I mean, that's a pretty low bar to rise over, if you ask me. And then on top of that, you've got like I said, this whole way it's shot and the cinematography is very similar to Nolan to me, way too similar. And the Riddler going around duct taping bombs to his chest, like that seems like something you would see in a satire of a Nolan film. Like, oh, it's super serious and grounded in reality now, so the Riddler is a suicide bomber. I just I would like to see something closer to the animated series because the animated series, according to a lot of fans, is still to this day the definitive adaptation of Batman and the Batman comics. The animated series wasn't all super dark, gritty seriousness all the time. It had its moments of levity. It knew when to have fun with the comics and with the universe, but it also knew when to take things seriously. It knew how to play things straight, and it knew when to have epic moments of badassery. I haven't really seen that mix on screen yet. The closest was Burton, and it's just one of those things. It's like, why are we not going that route? Because that's what is considered to be by many fans the definitive adaptation of Batman. So why aren't we taking a page from that? Why are we continuing to take a page from Christopher Nolan? That's my problem with this movie. That's one of the biggest problems of the trailer for me. It just reminds me so much of Nolan's Batman. Too much of Nolan's Batman. And if you're going to do a young Batman origin story, why not like go out there and be something completely different visually and style wise from what Nolan did? I don't see too much of a difference here. It's just very minor aesthetic differences. But if you took that Riddler and you took some of these other scenes and you cut them into a Nolan film, they would look like they fit in the same series and in the same universe. And to me, that's honestly a problem. And again, on the topic of young Batman, been there, done that. I've seen this a million times already. I mean, Batman Begins. The whole first hour and 10 minutes were young Bruce Wayne training and learning how to be Batman. I don't need to see that again. I honestly was more interested and intrigued by Affleck's Batman, but Warner Brothers had to be a bunch of dicks and weren't allowing him to make the film he wanted to make. So he was like, "Fuck you, I'm out of here." Even though apparently he's gonna be in Flashpoint along with Michael Keaton, but let's be honest, like they're not gonna be in it that much. And on the topic of Flashpoint, it's a good comic series, and I do like the Flash as a character, but I don't like Ezra Miller's portrayal of Flash in Justice League or in this new DC universe. So I am not looking forward to it because I don't like his portrayal. I don't like the way that the Flash has been handled so far, and I don't think that Flashpoint is really going to fix those issues. I'll be the first to sit here and say that I was wrong if that winds up being the case, but I'm not looking forward to it. Despite the fact that Keaton's going to be back as Batman or as Bruce, and Affleck's going to a a he's going to have a role in it. And on the topic of old Bruce, I want to talk about a potential Batman Beyond movie. I love Batman Beyond. I think it's a great series. I love the concept and I love the character. And I've always wanted to see a Batman Beyond movie. And in all honesty, I would be more hyped about a Batman Beyond film than another young Batman in, a gritty, grounded, realistic Gotham City like the Batman. Imagine a Batman film with the visual style and flair of Blade Runner 2049, with Batman Beyond, and with Terry McGinnis, a new young and up and coming actor like Tom Holland in the role, and Michael Keaton as old Bruce. And you could have maybe Blight be the villain, or maybe someone else, but I think that would be something fresh and something different and something new when it comes to Batman on the big screen that we haven't seen before. A gritty, darker, gritty, dark, edgy, grounded, realistic Batman. We've seen that already. Whether it looks more like Fincher's Seven or not, we've seen it already on screen three different times with Nolan's Batman movies. A Batman taking place in the future with futuristic visuals, with a mix of neon and darkness, and having the potential to be just absolutely stunning visually in the vein of Blade Runner 2049. That is something we haven't seen yet, and I think that has so much potential if it's done right. And I've heard rumors that they might be considering doing it, and I hope they really ultimately do wind up doing that film, because I think it'll be a absolute breath of fresh air for the Batman franchise when it comes to the cinematic portrayals, because it's just an old cowl to me. It's just an old ratty cowl, in my opinion, when it comes to gritty, dark, grounded Batman films. And and even even the Arkham games weren't as grounded in reality as the Batman trailer appears to be, or Nolan's films. So even if it's trying to be a take on Arkham, even the Arkham games weren't like that. I mean, look at how Gotham City looks in the Arkham games. And to me, I've always felt that Batman, it should be dark, it should be somewhat gritty, but the Rogues Gallery, the way that they are set up and the way that their personalities are, you can't have things be too dark and too realistic because it's hard to take it seriously. And I just feel that as a result, you change the characters in ways that are just overcompensating for things. And when it comes to the Riddler in the Batman, his riddles better be amazing. Because if they're not amazing and this mystery isn't that intriguing or that interesting, then the Riddler, as he is set up in that film, is to me is going to be an absolute failure. Because it's just a guy who is just a thug with riddles that aren't even that good. And to me, you take away the Riddler's personality, at least from what I've seen in the trailer. Maybe he'll have more personality, I don't know. But from what I've seen in the trailer, he's boring. He has no personality, he has no charisma. And you just take away that part of aspect of the Riddler. Like I said earlier, he's just a guy with riddles, and it puts too much pressure on the riddles to make this portrayal work. And if his riddles don't work, and they're not very good, and the mystery isn't that interesting, then you have a really weak villain. So we'll see when it comes to that particular portrayal soon enough. But I just, I just want to see something else. I want to see something else when it comes to Batman. And I saw bits and pieces of that in Batman vs Superman, and the little cameo that Batman had in Suicide Squad, and it just would have been nice to have seen, a different take that wasn't so similar to Nolan's take on the character and on the franchise. And to me, that's not what I'm getting at all with the Batman, and that's disappointing. But yeah, I'm not impressed. It didn't blow me away. I wasn't creaming my pants. I wasn't jizzing all over myself. I don't. It's just one of those trailers that I was like, all right. Robert Pattinson. He's not terrible. He's not awful. But I am really curious to see what his Bruce Wayne will be like, because I honestly saw nothing other than brooding Wayne in that trailer. But And I hope they really do play up the mystery aspects and the detective aspect. I really hope they do that. I saw a semblance of that and a little bit of that in the trailer, and I'm hoping that they really do play up on that more. But I don't know. I mean, it's just a trailer, I know, and I will be the first to sit here and admit that the film was surprising. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. when I do eventually check it out, because I will still see the movie. I'm not gonna skip it entirely just because I wasn't as impressed with this trailer as others are. Uh, I did like the music choice though, especially the remixed version of it that played when the titles of the film popped up at the end of the trailer. And I think, a more edgy approach to Batman could work if you went all out with it, but it's not going to go all out. It's going to be PG-13. And here's the thing. I've heard people compare it to Daredevil, the Netflix series, which I still haven't seen, but I've seen the trailers for them, and those honestly have gotten me more intrigued than this did, because they had the blood. They had the hardcore, edge. It would be refreshing to see an R-rated Batman movie with that edge, with that grit, with the intense visceralness that you would get with an R rating. So when Batman would punch a guy, blood would be flying or teeth would be flying out of the guy's face, something like that. And it seems like they're trying to do that with this. And if you're going to try to do a 7 thing, you might as well be rated R. Because 7 is a gritty, visceral, and dark and violent movie. And it wouldn't work if it was PG-13. And I just feel like it's another missed opportunity by DC, because Joker was a huge surprise hit for them, and it was R-rated. So why not do that with the Batman? Maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe it's just the trailer, is not showing all of that, but I doubt it. It's Batman. I honestly have zero faith and hope that it's going to be rated R. I hope it is, but I doubt it. But yes, I know. If it was rated R, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. I agree with that. But here's the thing. Dread is one of my favorite films that I've seen in the past, 8 years or so. And I wasn't that impressed with the first trailer for it. And I watched the first trailer again recently, and I still think it could have been better, but I don't dislike that trailer as much nowadays. But I still saw Dread, and it blew me away, and I loved it. So I'm hoping that the Batman is a similar thing. But I can't lie and sit here and say that I loved the trailer or I really liked it, because I didn't. I didn't. I can't sit here and lie to you and say that, I was super into the trailer. It just didn't do it for me. But that's just my personal opinions on it. Now let's talk about some movie news real quick. Mainly, I'm gonna discuss some things, some upcoming remakes. Now, yes, I know that these might not get a green lit and they might not get made. Period. And I am going into this little mini rant knowing that, but I still want to talk about it because people have been asking me about it. So you have the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles remake that's been announced with Kevin Hart and Will Smith. I like Will Smith, but what are you doing, man? And Kevin Hart, I can't stand him. And the thing is, though, this could easily go the same route as the Great Outdoors remake he was going to do that never happened. And I'm hoping it really does go the same route and it never gets made, because it doesn't need to get made. To me, why don't they just put this on the shelf out of respect for John Candy and John Hughes? I don't understand why they don't do that. Like, just out of respect and out of, appreciation for those two legends, just don't remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Just let it be a product of its time and let it be what it is and be the only Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Because let's be honest here. What are the chances that if this remake does get made, that it will be even half as good as the original? If the chances are very minute, then why even bother? Why even bother? Can we start remaking films that didn't work, that weren't very good, or could use improvements, like The Wraith? Can we do that instead of remaking classics like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? With the only difference being a race swap with the two leads. and I guess a few differences here and there. And plus, they already did something like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in Due Date, and that was okay. That was fine. And Zach Galifianakis was a little too annoying for my taste, but Robert Downey Jr. was great, and he absolutely made the film what it was for me. But at least they tried to do something different. At least they weren't trying to be like, hey, we're doing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but with Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. At least they had a different title. At least they took a different approach in some way or another. This is just name recognition. It's just another instance of Hollywood being lazy and uninspired and just trying to get the best of both worlds by, having a popular title and doing a remake of it, and then hoping and praying that they'll get both audiences. They'll get both old and new audiences to, be fans of it. But if you look at the track record when it comes to the box office and even critically, that rarely is ever the case unless it's something that has the Disney brand on it. So yeah, and to be honest, I wasn't even like, when I first heard that was announced, like the first reaction I had to it was a gif from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles of Steve Martin looking disappointed, because that's honestly, Steve Martin just going. That was my reaction to the announcement, because I'm like, I'm not surprised, and I'm just disappointed. I'm not even necessarily furious or angry about it. I'm just disappointed. Hollywood. I'm not angry at you. I'm disappointed. And then you have the Exorcist reboot or remake that's been announced. Why? At this point, why? Because after The Exorcist came out, there were countless Exorcist ripoffs, and then ever since The Exorcist has been released, you've had an absolute stream, and what seems like an endless stream of possession and ghost movies. So what is this remake going to do to make it stand out from those films? And how? I think it's in the same boat as the Planes, Trains, and Automobiles movie when it comes to being half as good as the original, but in this instance, it's even less of a chance of it actually being something different or something somewhat unique, because there's been so many Exorcist ripoffs and ghost and possession movies that have been released. There's no possible way to me that this is going to stand out in a way that's going to be substantial enough to justify it existing. So why even bother? Just do a different horror movie. Let's not do The Exorcist just for name recognition alone. And plus, there wasn't already a TV series that got released fairly recently, in like the span of like a couple years. So what is even the point? It'd be like doing another Omen remake, which is equally as pointless. Just do something different. Just do a different horror movie. Can we get another slasher film with a big budget instead of everything coming to direct to video? Seems like almost every horror film lately is a ghost or possession movie. But yeah. I don't have any faith for another Exorcist. Why should I have faith in another Exorcist? But it's not, even if it does get made, it's not even actually technically a remake. It's just another adaptation of the Exorcist story. But, that's semantics and so on and so forth. But I have to be honest, that does annoy me when people are all like, they're going to remake The Exorcist. Are they remaking the shooting script of the original film? Or are they just doing another adaptation or take on Will and Peter Blatty's novel? If that's the case, then it's not a remake. But, it just shows you that Hollywood is clearly running out of ideas. But here's the thing. I don't think they actually are out of ideas. I think they're just lazy. They're just being lazy, folks. Let's call it like it is. They're just being lazy, and they're able to do it because they're still making money. I think Hollywood's going to do more of these remakes because look at how well Halloween did in 2018. Look at how well the Disney remakes have been doing. So I think Hollywood's looking at the box office receipts for those and is all like, all right, that's what people want, so we're going to give it to them. If you don't want to see more remakes, then stop paying to see remakes. I haven't given Disney a single cent for their live action remakes. I didn't pay to see Halloween 2018. I haven't even actually seen that film yet. I paid like a buck or two for it on 4K from used at a resale shop. So, I haven't actually, and I will probably check that out sometime this October. But it's just one of those things. It's like, if we keep supporting these movies and these half-ass unoriginal takes on old franchises, then they're gonna keep making them. And in a lot of ways, we're the problem. Hollywood could choose not to do it, but you know how Hollywood works. The only way that they're going to listen and the only way they're going to change anything is if you hit them where it hurts the most in their pocketbook. And I think with the pandemic, they're going to be even more reliant and going to be even more into doing remakes and reboots because they can't afford to take as many risks as they used to. So they got to go with the tired and true, franchises that people know about, because God forbid they take a risk on something that might be a little bit different or somewhat unique and try to build a new audience, because can't take that risk because we're not going to have as much money to work with. And a lot of these studios are going to be in debt by the time they start rolling cameras again. So get ready. Get ready for, the floodgates to open up when it comes to remakes, reboots, and sequels. Just get ready for it, because honestly, I feel that that's going to be a very likely scenario going forward for at least 2 or 3 years. Anyway, that's it. That's it for this episode of Talking Cinema. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.